Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to welcome into the auditorium the Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados, who will then be followed by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Coming in now is the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas, Honorable Isaac Chester Cooper. Thank you so much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'll just invite you to take your seats as we continue with the procession of the heads of government in a moment.
Come.
Our live broadcast here on NCN. Thank you for staying with us on the network. For those listening on the Voice of Guyana or joining via our social media pages, we're also streaming live in the diaspora via our colleague sister stations across CARICOM heads of states. In addition to the heads of government, we have at the National Cultural Center in Guyana today, which are the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Belize, also Chairman of CARICOM, the Honorable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley, and Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Honorable Isaac Chester Cooper, as well as the Premier of Montserrat, the Honorable Joseph Farrell. We also have agriculture ministers representing Bahamas, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Dominica, and Barbados. Other ministers from Suriname, the Minister of Labor; from Trinidad, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs; from Barbados, the Foreign Affairs Minister; from Antigua and Barbuda, Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister. A number of key stakeholders and regional agencies are participating. And these include the IDB Invest, the Inter-American Development Bank. We have the IFCWB, the International Financial Corporation, World Bank, the CDB, Central Development Bank, the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, ICA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, the International Organization of the Americas, specializing in agriculture and rural well-being. The World Food Programme, WFP, is the food assistance branch of the United Nations. It is the world's largest humanitarian organization focused on hunger and food security, and the largest provider of school meals as well. Global Affairs Canada, we have USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, RBL, Republic Bank Limited, and a number of key international and regional stakeholders as well. The agenda for today is official ceremony program here at the National Cultural Center, which is expected to culminate at noon. This will be followed by the heads of government heading over to the Arthur Chung Conference Center for the cutting of ribbon. and a subsequent tour of the exhibition. Later in the afternoon, we're expecting a development partners roundtable, which will be moderated by the CARICOM Assistant Secretary General for Trade and Economic Integration, Mr. Joseph Cox. The expected participants and donors are IDB Invest, IFCWB, the CDB, the FAO, ECA, WFP, Global Affairs Canada, USAID, UK, and Republic Bank Limited, which we mentioned earlier. A musical interlude as we await the other arrivals here at the National Cultural Center. Continuing on some of the proceedings and expectations coming out of the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. A welcome reception is expected to be hosted by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. As we now welcome the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas, Honorable Isaac Chesterton.
That's what we're thinking.
On we go with the procession of the heads of government. Please welcome Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We now invite the Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Mia Amor Motley. Continuing with our procession of heads of government, Antigua and Barbuda, Honorable Gaston Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, General of the Caribbean Community, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett. And now the Prime Minister of Belize and the Chairman of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Honorable John Antonio Briceño. And now, His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali.
His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and Mrs. Arya Ali, First Lady, Honorable Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Justice Yonette Cummings Edwards, Chancellor of the Judiciary, Honorable Mansour Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize and Chairman of the Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Honorable Mia Amor Motley QC, Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Dominica, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Isaac Chester, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation of Bahamas, Honorable Joseph Farrell, Prime Minister of Montserrat, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, CBE, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Honorable Dr. Jean Leon, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Honorable Dr. Barrett Jagdeo, Vice President of Guyana, Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, Chairman of the Special Ministerial Task Force on Food Production and Food Security of CARICOM, and Minister of Agriculture of Guyana, and other members of the Cabinet of Guyana, Honorable Ministers of Government of Member States of the Caribbean Community, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of regional and international organizations, including the FAO and ICA, students of the Guyana School of Agriculture and secondary schools in Guyana, members of the media, invitees all. A very good morning to you and welcome to the opening ceremony of the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo 2022. Having established the protocols I just did, I urge all speakers to reference them in the interest of time, given our distinguished but long list of speakers this morning. I do this knowing very well that many speakers will feel compelled to just follow their script or to embrace a more Caribbean-type protocol, which includes a hail-up or a shout-out. I, for example, protocol notwithstanding, am struggling not to shout out Mia Motley and ask her if she brought any news for me from my Bajan family in St. Lucie. Talking about family, what we have today is really a family occasion. The Caribbean family is making a giant leap forward. The Judeo-Christian scriptures in Ecclesiastes states that there's a time for everything. For the Caribbean family, this is time for we catch we self. Throughout post-colonial history, the Caribbean has searched for a basis on which to build our mostly absent and sometimes fragile unity. But I think that today, we catch we self. Historically, we were brought here for the generation of agricultural wealth. Everything is in our favor: the atmosphere, the climate, the weather, and the people. And at our founding, we fed ourselves and we fed large swaths of Western Europe. It's time that we catch ourselves and do it again. Let's get our show on the road. I would now like to invite Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, CBE, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, to make welcoming remarks. Dr. Barnett.
I'm a little bit short, sir. Good morning, everyone. Protocol having been excellently set out for us. Can you bring this on a little bit? Thank you very much. Yes. Permit me to recognize Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Corporate Republic of Guyana, Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize and Chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, other heads of government, honorable ministers, members of cabinet, heads of regional institutions, international partners, members of the diplomatic corps, young people present, ladies and gentlemen. We have come together today to make another important step on our journey towards reducing the regional food import bill by 25% by 2025. This clear objective set by CARICOM heads of government requires rebooting of our agriculture sector to improve production and productivity and intra-regional trade. That is what investing in Vision 25 by 2025 is all about. For the Caribbean community, investing in Vision 25 by 2025 for greater food and nutrition security is not just a concept, but an urgent necessity. It is a statement of commitment by the heads of government, which demonstrates that the time for action is now. The path to the transformation of our regional food systems is in our hands. We undertake this task at a time of great global uncertainty. Not only has the COVID-19 pandemic exacted a significant toll on our economies, but we are now facing increased prices for food, fuel, and other basic goods due to the war in Ukraine and long-lasting supply chain disruptions. This adds to the stresses on the livelihoods of vulnerable people in our populations, increases the cost of doing business, and places additional pressures on governments' budgets. With the ongoing removal of the restrictions that came with the pandemic, our economies are now poised to recover some of the ground lost during these trying times. This is a stressful time that is testing our resilience significantly. However, I believe that the spirit of cooperation, which we have always shown in times of adversity, will be the bedrock on which we overcome the current challenges. Our tourism sector, which has many linkages throughout our economies, has thankfully started to recover and will contribute to recovery, however uneven, across our countries. Agriculture, though, is what we are focusing on single-mindedly today. It has the potential to contribute significantly to economic recovery and resilience and drive socioeconomic development for the region. It is a major pillar upon which we can build to develop the human and economic capital which exists within our region. Today, we do not only stress the importance of increased investment in our food and agriculture sector if we are to meet our goal of greater food and nutrition security, we also demonstrate the willingness to do the level of planning and execution together with the full range of stakeholders that we need to be working with together to achieve the 25 by 2025 vision. From investors to farmers to technology providers to agriculture processors, agro-processors to consumers. With food prices now at their highest level since 2008, we are doing what we must do to seize this challenge as the opportunity to increase our own production for trade within regional markets and further afield. We are not underestimating the task at hand. Success will require increased support from our governments to alleviate the technological, logistical, and financing constraints faced by our producers. All this will require hard decisions to be made on the allocation of funding to agriculture and rural development, agricultural research, national transportation, those allied sectors and services that play important roles in bringing technological solutions to farming communities and bring production to market. Private investment is crucial for sustained growth of production and productivity in agriculture, as in any sector. This is why it is very heartening to see that so many investors have responded to the call to actively participate in this important event. There will be a lot of follow-up work to be done. There are concrete results from this engagement, and we are move to achieve Vision 25 by 2025. We must take deliberate steps to ensure that we recognize the role that women and youth already play as farmers, but we must fully also integrate our women and youth into our mainstream planning for agriculture development. I am therefore happy to note that there will be special sessions dedicated to addressing the concerns and aspirations of these two important groups of stakeholders. This forum and Expo seeks to provide opportunities for investment, new project development, and technological advancement for the CARICOM agri-food system. The results and outcomes of this event must serve as a medium to enhance the production efficiency, livelihoods, and competitiveness of our hardworking farmers, agro-processors, and marketers who stand to benefit from the various technological, logistical, and financial solutions that are on offer. I take this opportunity to offer a special thank you to His Excellency Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, for his dynamic leadership as lead head of government for agriculture in the CARICOM quasi-cabinet, and for having had the foresight not only to conceive of this investment forum and expo, but for having put dedicated resources and so much of his own energy into moving the entire program of regional agricultural revitalization forward. I also thank the government of Guyana, the Minister of Agriculture and his staff, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and his staff, and other ministries involved in hosting this event for putting in place the resources, logistical arrangements, and the planning necessary to deliver it in a relatively short time. It is my wish that the deliberations and interactions over the next few days will be highly productive, and that we would have moved the process of agricultural revitalization forward in a very meaningful way. Thank you, and I welcome everyone to this wonderful event.
Thank you, Dr. Barnett. Whenever I have the privilege of introducing our relatively young president, I could never resist the urge to say that Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali has the best opportunity in the history of Guyana to truly transform Guyana and now to influence change in the region as a whole. Dr. Ali, as I've said before, will certainly bring the dreams and aspirations of a generation like mine into reality in a relatively short time.
Thank you. Most gracious.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali.
Thank you very much. Please, please. Thank you very much. Please, please, my distinguished brothers and sisters, I won't say on stage, my distinguished brothers and sisters at the front line, because at the end of the day, it stops at the front line. Whether it's good or bad, whether it's challenging or an opportunity, it stops at the front line. And sometimes people see it as a stage gathering or the head table, as you will call it. But for us, it is the front line. And we are very humbled, I am very humbled by this opportunity to join with my dear brothers and sisters in not only launching and participating in this Agri-Investment Forum, but in sending a strong, singular message. That is, together we are ready to move forward in every aspect of the food production system in this region. From production to trade relations, to issues of markets, of barriers, every single issue, transport and logistics, every single issue is on the table, because we recognize if we cannot address these issues in a collective, multifaceted manner, then we will not be able to bring the long-term solutions that are so critically required. And that is why the private sector is the center of what we are doing. And the private sector here includes the farmers. But why are we here? By 2030, global use of cereal, wheat, corn, and soya is projected to increase to 3 million tons. Developing countries will account for almost 90% of this projected increase. 3/4 of the increase is attributed to feed consumption, with expanding livestock and poultry sectors. We are already seeing the pressure on the poultry sector and livestock because of feed input costs, and this is not expected to get better. Maize prices increased by 20% in the first quarter of 2022, exceeding its July 2012 record prices. Wheat prices are forecasted to increase by more than 40% by 2022, while consumption is expected to increase by 12%. The challenge for developing countries and us in CARICOM is not only the rise in prices, but the supply. As the vaccination war taught us, our position in the line is definitely not in front. Global production of mutton is expected to grow by 15%, whilst consumption is expected to grow to 18 million tons by 2030. Production will just be keeping a pace with consumption. The same can be said for dairy. The production growth by 2030 is projected at 1.7% per annum, while per capita consumption of dairy products is projected to increase by 1.2% per annum. As I speak to you this morning, there is a global shortage of baby formula all across territories. A global shortage of baby formula. Fertilizer has seen a 100% increase as of March 2022, while CARICOM has reported a 17.1% increase in transport expenses due to higher bunker prices and charter rates. Global fish production reached 179 million tons in 2018. Close to 50% of this production came from aquaculture. 50% of this came from aquaculture. The state of marine fisheries stock continues to decline, with a portion of fish stock being within biological sustainable levels, decreasing from 90% in 1974 to 65.8% in 2017. From 90% to 65.8%. The Caribbean region is located in the FAO fisheries area, termed the Western Central Atlantic. Only 61.4% of the assessed stock was fished within biologically sustainable levels in 2017. Catches peaked at 2.5 million metric tons in 1984 and declined to 1.2 million metric tons in 2014. This represents a 70% decline. If this trend continues by 2030, less than 50% of marine stocks in the Caribbean will be fished sustainably. Management measures can arrest this, but climate change may accelerate this further downwards. It can therefore be easily assumed that marine stocks will continue to decline in the region, and any increase in the fisheries supply will come from either imports or aquaculture production and expansion. The choice is ours. The decision is therefore very simple. If we are to secure our production, we must take action and expand our aquaculture industry, as extra-regional supplies will become more costly given the anticipated global decline. Extra-regional supplies from aquaculture will be even more costly given the sharp rise in input costs such as feed. In 2020, we imported close to 100,000 metric tons of fish and fish products, amounting close to $340 million United States dollars. In Guyana and the rest of the region, the proposed path must be to improve management of the fisheries sector, to invest in aquaculture to supply farm freshwater and saltwater species to replace declining catches, to invest in aquaculture to produce fishery products to replace declining supply, to invest in agriculture to produce the components for aquaculture feed supply, to enable the feeding and production of farm fish and shrimp, to convert the waste and byproduct of capture fisheries to produce fish and meal for aquaculture feed, and to facilitate the supply of cheap power to enable the processing of soybean into soy meal. To facilitate strategic business development partnership between private sector, fish farmers, financial institutions, governments, and markets. In Guyana, we have undertaken several initiatives to achieve the 25 by 2025 target. Our current production and where we want to be. Poultry, we are currently producing 50,000 metric tons. We project to take this to 90,000 metric tons by 2025. Corn and soya, our present production is 4,300 metric tons. We project to increase this to 35,000 metric tons by 2025. We currently produce 324,000 metric tons of vegetables. We project to take this to 400,000 metric tons by 2025. Rice, our current production is 560 metric tons. We project to take this to 847,000 metric tons by 2025. To reduce our import bill, which is approximately 30 million United States dollars, we have entered into partnership and collaboration with our private sector, building consortium with our farmers and young people in the production of high-value crops, corn and soya, a special project with the young people to launch shade houses, a project we launched today with young people for shrimp farming, an investment of 651 million Guyana dollars has been allocated just for the corn and soya project, supporting the consortium in reaching this target. So we are matching the targets with the incentives and investment from the government. In aquaculture, we've invested more than $100 million in our brackish water shrimp production, which increased from 250,000 kilograms just a year ago to 1.2 million kilograms in 1 year. This tells the story that we have the ability and we have the know-how to do this once we embrace this path. We intend to invest another 150 million Guyana dollars to boost this production by more than 50%. We're investing 200 million Guyana dollars towards the development of a growth farm for Pacific white-legged shrimp. We're investing 40 million Guyana dollars to facilitate research and developing breed programs of indigenous, commercially viable freshwater species to conduct. We are presently conducting field trials. Wheat, another important area for a global threat right now because of the war in Ukraine. We have embarked on a research to see whether there is a variety of wheat that can be planted in Guyana to meet our national needs and then to further expand to our regional needs. So far, we have seen tremendous success in the trials. In logistics, we're investing heavily in the infrastructure, farm-to-market roads, and other key infrastructure to support this sector. In partnership with our sister CARICOM state, Barbados, we will soon launch a food terminal in Barbados. We are expected to our first 1,000 black belly sheep from Barbados to boost our production. We have earmarked one of our regions in Guyana as a livestock capital of Guyana and the region. The two countries have agreed to a shade house initiative, which will see the setting up of 50 shade houses in Barbados. The opportunities we are looking at in the future includes investing in marine cage technology in the riverine areas, starting with cages for tilapia and tambaqui, two different breed of fish that is becoming very popular here locally. In terms of fertilizer, we are looking at establishing a fertilizer production plant locally with the gas to energy project as an offshoot of the gas to energy project, so that it can help us in terms of our input costs. And to encourage agro-processing, we intend to reduce the cost of energy by 50% by 2025. This, of course, will boost agro-processing and help us in this regard. We're also exploring ways to tap into the global industrial hemp market, which will reach US $12.01 billion by 2028. Guyana has laid our legislation for the hemp industry a few days ago in the National Assembly. I say now, the Force magazine of April 26, 2022 had perhaps one of the most frightening headlines for the region. The caption headline was, and I quote, "In the Caribbean, severe food insecurity has increased by 72% in the last year." The article cited a survey administered by the Caribbean Community in association with the World Food Programme and estimated that the prevalence of severe food insecurity has increased by 72% since the onset of the pandemic and by 44% compared to a year ago. The report estimated the number of food insecure persons in the region at 39%. 93% of the respondents in the survey reported higher prices for food, with 80% of our food consumption coming from extra-regional sources. I say all of this not to create a frightening position, but for us to understand the reality on which we reach today. And in understanding that reality, we, the leaders of CARICOM, through this Agri-Investment Forum, must send a strong message. We must correct the imbalance. We are and we must be prepared to achieve the target of 2025. We cannot lose this momentum. As a region, we cannot continue the importation of billions of dollars in products that we can produce right here locally. Vision 25 is looking at investment by countries to collectively reduce these imports by 25%. In achieving this, there are many challenges facing us, all of which we are working to resolve in partnership with the private sector in the areas of financing, logistics and transport, improving primary production, improving agri-processing, linking market to produce, and most importantly, create barriers that continue to haunt our efforts at working as a collective. As leaders, our overarching strategy should be aimed at streamlining procedures for exports and imports, a time-bound commitment to the removal of barriers, developing a pre-clearance system for the export of goods so as to reduce bureaucracy and spoilage, standardization of certification process, technical support in developing business proposals for farmers, incentivize agricultural lands for financial institutions, greater involvement of youth and women in the production chain, the privatization with government incentive of regional logistics and regional cargo infrastructure. Here in Guyana, we have set ourselves a target in the Shade House project and the livestock project of 20%, at least 20% of those farms to be owned by women. And we have a high percentage of youth participation, very high percentage of youth participation in the Shade House project. For a matter of fact, the company that was set up for this is owned completely by young people who are graduates from the University of Guyana and the Guyana School of Agriculture. There is much more that I would like to say, but we have many of my distinguished colleagues who will continue to elaborate on many of these issues. But I cannot leave this podium by thanking the hard-working staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Government of Guyana, CARICOM Secretariat, the Ministerial Task Force, for this outstanding job in bringing together this conference in less than 3 months with more than close to 600 registered delegates, more than 250 companies, of which more than 50% are international companies, more than 20 donor agencies and international financial institutions, regional financial institutions. So I ask you to give them a resounding round of applause for this great work. I end by saying to you, the time is now. The will is there. Together, we have no other choice but to create a win for CARICOM under these challenging food security times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Ali. For the record, President Ali is the lead responsibility for agriculture, agricultural diversification, food security, including the Regional Transformational Program and bananas. We now move to remarks that will be presented by the Chairman of the Caribbean Community, the Honorable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, colleague heads of government, ministers of government, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here in Guyana with President Ali and the wonderful Guyanese people who have opened up their city and hearts to all of us who have journeyed here for this very important event. The last time I was here, the president was your Vice President Jack Deo, a much better looking young man at that time. But good to see you again, Vice President. So it's been a long time, and you know how things have changed since that time. I think it was around 2005, 2006. And thank you, my dear friend, President Ali, for the excellent hospitality you have provided for all of us. I am pleased to be here with all of you for this very important event. For sure, this is an opportune time for us to be discussing agriculture and, to a greater extent, food security. Why? Because the Caribbean community continues to be affected by a number of global events, which can and indeed have a negative effect on our region's ability to ensure food security for our people. Some of these immediate effects include the COVID-19 pandemic, challenges resulting from the disruptions in the global supply chain, the high and increasing cost of agro inputs, most recent, the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, and yes, climate change. Each of these alone would have been enough to seriously disrupt our fragile economies, let alone all of them taken together. But we need not despair. Instead, we must appreciate the fact that we have our dedicated CARICOM farmers and agro-processors who are knowledgeable enough and skilled enough to take advantage of the many opportunities that currently exist in our region to attain food security and enhanced economic activity. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that CARICOM is organizing an agri-business investment forum and expo, and across the region, we welcome this initiative. Investing in Vision 25 by 2025 is the theme chosen for this event. It is more than a catchy slogan. It is, in effect, a plan which intends to see our region reduce its dependency on food imports and products by 25% over the next 3.5 years. To do this, we, the member states that make up CARICOM, will have to work with our agro-producers to foster accelerated and targeted investment in food production. During our last CARICOM heads of government meeting, we acknowledged that our agri-food sector accounts for more than 20% employment in the region. Like Belize, Guyana is blessed with abundant agricultural land and a people able and capable of tilling the fertile soil. This is why we are so excited about the leadership role President Ali is playing as the lead for agriculture and food security. Congratulations, President Ali. Wonderful job. Already we know that agriculture represents a clear opportunity for increased investment in agricultural production and agro-processing. It is, therefore, imperative that action is taken to maximize the benefits of present opportunities. See, in spite of the current global challenges, there are abundant opportunities in this sector that can result in enhancing our goal to ensure regional food security as well as increasing economic activity. As heads, we are convinced that President Ali's plans for agricultural development in the region are realistic. More so, they are imperative if we are to achieve food security for our CARICOM region. Also, 25% reduction in our region's food import bill by 2025 would significantly increase the production of homegrown products such as poultry, corn, soy, shrimp, cooking oils, juices and beverages, animal feed, fish, cattle, vegetables, sugar, and so many other food products. We have the potential to produce most of our food and in doing so, attain economic resilience and development. All member countries have excellent farmers and agro-producers who deserve their government's support in policy initiatives, financial and technical assistance to improve their competitive edge. As a CARICOM region, we must do better to remove those technical barriers to trade that most of us impose on each other. Let us instead use our efforts and energies to adopt policies to support the growth of the agro-productive sector, improve market facilitation, and develop intra-regional transportation. This CARICOM Agri-Investment Forum and Expo is bringing together investors from all over the region to facilitate business engagements and to develop investment opportunities. This then is our chance to facilitate and support our private sectors in making this a reality. In Belize, we have pledged a robust return to our agro-productive sector. Indeed, it was our commitment to agriculture that caused the Belizean economy to grow by 12% last year during the height of the pandemic when our tourism industry lost millions. Today, we in Belize are fully committed to our agricultural goal, which we term from farm to table with love. It means we grow what we eat and we eat what we grow. I am convinced that it is the right time for our region to invest in our agro-productive sector and the right time to start establishing strategic partnerships to realize the tremendous opportunities for growth, and in so doing will move us closer to ensuring regional food security. I assure that such an investment would bear good fruit and set our region on the right path to achieving meaningful human development for all our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, and Chairman of the Caribbean Community. We're now going to have a bit of entertainment from the National Dance Company, and after the entertainment, my colleague Michelle Abraham Ali will take us through the remainder of the program. Michelle.
Bire mazak wurut nogong moro wia kok manoro tiji ningai
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world. coastal plains, plenty rice and sugar cane. Same Guyanese blood in our vein. So make we burn out the hatred, time for erasing. Can't make that destroy. 6 race I share the same space in this 83,000 square miles. We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world.
Brother is a brother, no matter which religion is you. Could a Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Hindu. Sister is a sister, real and true. One big part of culture brew.
And all of we together could really make this dream come true. Of a brighter Guyana for me and you. Ocean to mountains, hear this tune. Take it cool.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world. My love runs deep like a beautiful rivers for Guyana. Oh, and when we stand as one, mighty like Mount Jemima, for Guyana, for Guyana. Our life would be beautiful, just like Guyana. She's blessed us with her own, just got to embrace her. They say, one and alone can't clap lots of lots. Put her hands together, give her a standing ovation. This great nation, a little gem of this world, yeah. A place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world. We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our
Indeed, we are one Guyana as we prepare to celebrate our 56th independence anniversary next week. This is the opening ceremony of Agri-Investment Forum and Expo under the theme Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Antigua and Barbuda is home to thousands of Guyanese, and they have contributed to that twin island nation in many ways, including culinary choices. This means that over the decades, the farmers and vendors, they've been supplying like Bora and Karaigla and Callaloo. And so Antigua and Barbuda has been a major destination for Guyana's agricultural produce by air. To give remarks at the opening ceremony, it's now my pleasure to invite Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Honorable Gaston Brown.
Thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair. I presume it's the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Antigua, and Barbuda. I acknowledge my dear friend, brother, the President, Dr. Irfan Ali, other colleague heads, to include our Chairman, John Brasino, of course, the ministers present here today, Secretary General, other officials as established by the opening protocols, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome this important and timely initiative by President Irfan Ali to focus attention on agriculture in the region, particularly in the context of food security and nutrition. The urgent achievement of food security is an imperative to avoid future catastrophic consequences. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, if CARICOM is to succeed with attaining regional food security and achieve a high standard of agri-food production, the infrastructure must be supported by an inclusive development policy to include continuous direct investment and a modernized legal framework which accounts for the required standards and quality of our products. Equally important to the sector's sustainability is the implementation of innovative actions and the adoption of modern agricultural techniques, including the use of information communication technologies, ICTs, to effectively manage the sector in achieving sustained production of good quality products. The consequential effects of COVID and the war on Ukraine have demonstrated in stark terms the interconnectivity of our globalized world. None of our countries has escaped the impact of increased petroleum prices, the shortage of fertilizer, and the higher prices for food products occasioned by constraints on supply. I draw attention to the worrying observation by the World Bank that the price of fertilizers has increased by as much as 178% between March 2021 and March 2022. The price of urea, one of the most important and widely used fertilizers, has now reached an all-time high. Shortages of food products around the world have resulted in the highest rate of inflation for over 4 decades. Colleagues, the high prices are affecting the poor and the most vulnerable in our societies, and we must act urgently to protect them. In short, the world is facing a crisis in food production and supply that has exponentially increased the cost of food to every nation, including ours in the Caribbean community, with implications for political stability and national security. This situation exposes our vulnerabilities more profoundly, especially the food insecurity of our region. The rapid escalation in the price for fertilizer should be a strong signal to us as a region of the importance of our countries acting together to invest in machinery to produce fertilizer. And I would have listened carefully to the distinguished president of Guyana about establishing your own facility to produce fertilizer, but I believe that this is an area for regional collaboration. The present situation may be an opportunity for Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago to explore the possibility of utilizing their gas capacity to strengthen and expand Trinidad's existing facility so as to produce fertilizer to satisfy the region's needs and to end our vulnerability to external vagaries. I hope this idea might be pursued, including by the two governments, while inviting all CARICOM governments to invest in the enterprise as owners, making it a truly regional undertaking. Our region ought not to continue to be susceptible to external factors for fertilizer if we have the capacity to cure it, and we certainly do. CARICOM must quickly enhance agricultural production capacities to levels that can insulate the region from external shocks and to ensure food sovereignty, food security, and adequate nutrition. Mr. Chairman, each of our countries come from different conditions to the point of recognizing the crucial importance of producing and supplying food within our region. If we could achieve a high level of food production and supply within the region, we would not only significantly decrease the dependence of many of our countries on food importation from outside the region, but we could also reduce costs. But achieving food sufficiency on the basis of individual country production will not be possible for all countries. That is the reality. For example, my own country, Antigua and Barbuda, is subject to long periods of droughts, such as the period we are now enduring. This arid condition is not conducive to sustained and competitive agricultural production in traditional ways. To maintain and increase water supply for domestic consumption and commercial operations, including agricultural production, we are compelled to invest in very expensive reverse osmosis plants. This makes water very costly, escalating the cost of agricultural production and rendering the price of our products uncompetitive, and in any event, insufficient for our needs. Nonetheless, we recognize the importance of developing and maintaining some level of agricultural production to reduce our import dependency, reduce foreign exchange leakage, and to produce more nutritious foods in tackling the escalating NCD crisis. To do so, we have been investing in water production and in new technologies such as hydroponics, as well as in training and retraining our farming community in new modern farming techniques. We also have to find a means of providing lines of credit, crop insurance, and commitments to purchase and distribute the produce of small farmers. And I know too that President Ali would have done some work in this area, and that at least there's one regional institution so far that would have pledged about $100 million in funding. And again, I want to take this opportunity to commend President Ali for his leadership. We thank you. Now, there is the disheartening occurrence of predial larceny. This is a problem in my country about which my government will have to consider introducing very harsh penalties. But the problem is not in Antigua and Barbuda alone. In 2010, the estimated direct losses from predial larceny in the region amounted to US $321 million. It was described as the most discouraging aspect of agriculture. It would be useful to all our countries if there was a regional approach to matters such as lines of credit, crop insurance, predial larceny, and machinery to purchase the produce of small farmers by contract. Perhaps arising from the discussions at this meeting, there may come concrete plans to advance these considerations. Mr. Chairman, as long ago as 2005, CARICOM governments agreed on a framework for the repositioning of Caribbean agriculture. That plan came to be known as the Jagdio Initiative after Barbados Jagdio, the then president of Guyana, who spearheaded it. When the Jagdio Initiative was adopted in 2005, the region's food import bill was $1.8 billion US. At the end of last year, 2021, the food import bill had quadrupled to more than $5 billion United States dollars. I venture to estimate that the present global circumstances would have seen an increase in the import bill, possibly in the region of about $6 billion US dollars and rising. It is also important to note that a joint survey by the CARICOM Secretariat and World Food Program estimated severe food insecurity in the Caribbean to have increased by 72% since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last few weeks, this figure evidently would have dramatically worsened. Let me recall that our region failed to implement the 2005 Jagdio Initiative, and over the last 17 years, we have suffered for our inaction. Let us all learn from this experience. Contributing to the failure were several factors, and I wish to highlight just three of them in the interest of time. One was poor coordination of the work programs of the many agencies concerned with agricultural production in the region. The second was limited access to commercially available finance because of inadequacy of bankable projects. And the third, and most important, was and remains inadequate intra-regional transport. And I will address that matter briefly. Unfortunately, it is easier to ship commodities from Miami than within our region. Mr. Chairman, the original JAGU initiative and the refinements since introduced by President Ali represent a good starting point for action arising from this meeting. We need to move from rhetoric to firm decisions for the advancement of the region's agricultural sector in achieving food sovereignty and food security. We must also resolve to act urgently in our own interests, including by honoring the terms of the CARICOM Treaty and not permitting breaches of it by, let's say, countries that from time to time impose these illegal non-tariff barriers on goods, particularly products from other member states. And based on the claps, I know you know exactly which countries I'm speaking about. My dear friends, I end my remarks with the last observation. A regional approach is necessary to increase food production in all of our territories, but it is not sufficient to produce more food if we fail to establish the means to transport and distribute it. Let us not fool ourselves. If we do not have adequate transportation, then all of our efforts will be in vain. In this regard, reliable regional transportation by air and by sea is imperative and urgently requires attention. There's a tendency in this region in which we have some free riders. Everyone wants transportation, but no one wants to pay for it. We have to implement a program of shared benefit and shared burden. So I implore our colleagues to address this very important issue of transportation urgently. Mr. Chairman, all these circumstances come in as many of our economies are still struggling to emerge from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic amid extremely high oil prices pose a very serious challenge to our region. Therefore, there is every reason why together our countries must view food insecurity as a grave threat to our well-being and declare war on it. Colleagues, it is a truism that no nation, no integrated region or integration region can be great if it cannot feed itself. I therefore implore us to act now to address our food insecurity and to make our region great. I thank you. Much love and blessings.
Thank you, Prime Minister Brown. Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyana and Barbados, we have shared a deep history beyond the colonial reason for us being here. And as Alex mentioned, thousands of Guyanese, we share the same DNA with thousands of Barbados because many Barbadians at one stage in our history had come to work in the sugar industry. And so we share a common heritage, we share a common destiny to increase and improve the quality of our food production. We will now hear remarks on pursuing CSME and removing barriers to enhance agri-trade within the region from the Honourable Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor-Motley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Your Excellency, my brother, the President of Guyana, distinguished heads of government, distinguished members of Cabinet of Guyana and the wider Caribbean, leaders of business and international organizations, above all else, the students and young people of Guyana, because we're doing this for you. Good morning, all. We are here together at a most critical time in our history. As of May 17th, 2022, export restrictions were put in place on palm oil in Indonesia. Increased export restrictions have been imposed by Russia on sunflower seeds, sunflower oil, and wheat. Ukraine has banned exports of wheat and oats. Argentina has extended export restrictions on beef products until 2023. India and Kazakhstan, most recently, have restricted exports of wheat. It is expected that there will be more restrictions as we go on by governments to safeguard their food supply in the face of soaring inflation. Large shipments of grain are still delayed in the Ukraine port, blockaded by the war. My friends, what more do we need? There is still the picture that speaks 1,000 words of the thousands of ships outside the port of Shanghai, waiting to be able to move supplies globally, in and out. Those supply chain disruptions didn't start this year. They started during the course of the pandemic. They have simply become exacerbated in the last 2 to 3 months. We are already familiar with them because we had the export restrictions on us with PPE and ventilators at the beginning. And we understood then in a very real way, as you heard from President Ali this morning, that we are simply not large enough to be seen and not loud enough to be dealt with, neither individually or, regrettably, collectively. My friends, we are at that moment in time where it is up to us to stand up to the challenge or to recognize that the consequences of it will indeed be difficult and potentially devastating for our people. And while we await the global initiatives to be announced by the UN Secretary General and the Global Crisis Response Team that he has established on food, energy, and financing, with the expectation that what the world faces will be more challenging than what we faced in 2008 to 2010, we have a responsibility to take preemptive action in this region to protect our people. And that is why all of us meet in Georgetown today against this backdrop. A crisis like no other is before us. And may I say that when we first set the target, indeed, I remember like yesterday, when the regional ministers of agriculture met in Barbados in September 2018, and we issued the challenge, I issued then and said, why are we not resuscitating the Jagdeo initiative? And in so doing, why can't we set ourselves a simple target of reducing food imports regionally by 25% by 2025. Little did we know how apt that challenge would be for this moment in time. Little did we realize that rather than 25, President Ali, it might well have to be 50 by 2025, given what we have just said. This crisis, as I said, deepens like no other. And we don't have the luxury to ignore it. When the heads of government met to establish the single market and single economy in 1989 in Grenada, we had very clear ambitions. And we have now to ensure that this is not a long-awaited dream of men and women meeting in Grenada, but that this can become the reality of our people. And therefore, this morning, very briefly, I want to speak to food security in the context of the CSME. Because, as you heard from my brother, Prime Minister of Antigua, without us addressing certain aspects of it, it would become a futile effort. The entire Caribbean region also has to be viewed not just as the population of CARICOM of 15 million or so, or 18 million, sorry, with 18 million, but with the visitors that we receive on an annual basis, whose responsibility it is ours to feed. And when we look at that, we are then looking at a base of over 32 million people. But it then requires us to have a different mindset, because we bring people to this region and we want to feed them what they eat from where they come, rather than understanding that it is our responsibility to be unique and different, and it is our responsibility to give them a flavor that might entice them to return. Mr. President, I single out Guyana because, in a very real sense, your journey through the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s have indigenized so much of what you eat here that the rest of us in this region would do well to follow the example, to change our dietary habits and to change our tastes, because it is not only good economics, it is better for each and every one of us individually as we fight the dreaded spectacle of chronic NCDs. But it isn't only a government decision. We need to bring on our distributors and retail trade. We need to bring on our restaurateurs and our hoteliers. The notion that you come to the Caribbean and you drink juice out of a tin made in some other part of the world is as offensive as it can possibly be to an independent Caribbean than I could think of. Where is the fresh juice from Guyana or from Dominica or from St. Vincent? Where is it? Where are the fresh herbs? It is true that they're herbs and herbs. We may well have done better with one than the other, even if not intentionally. My friends, there has to be a change in mindset. And I'm not sure, President Ali or Vice President Jagdeo, whether it was in this building that the CARICOM heads of government met in 1986. Perhaps I should ask Sir Ronald. I'm not sure if it was in this building. But if it was not in this building, it is certainly in this town. When Errol Barrow stood here and reminded us that irrespective of whatever governments do, we as Caribbean people, as you heard just now in the introduction of Antigua, in the introduction of Barbados, are family. And that those family bonds are pursued on a daily basis without reference to the rest of the bureaucratic obstacles or governmental intransigence and lethargy. We have a responsibility now to change mindsets and to change policies. Our SPS regime, sanitary and phytosanitary regime, must be modernized to ensure that safe foods can enter, circulate and exit the single economic space efficiently. And I will deal with it from our perspective because I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. In Barbados, we have a responsibility also to be more agile with respect to those things that we do to allow goods into our own territory from the region, as we will expect every other territory in the Caribbean community so to do. Because if we don't make the steps now to remove the barriers, God knows how we can create the productive base that President Ali has so masterfully drafted for us in terms of the plans to expand productivity and to expand production. Similarly, we have to ensure that our ports of entry, as you heard from Prime Minister Brown, are priority areas of investment to facilitate the movement of cargo and people. And in this moment, when maritime transport is at its greatest challenge, we have to recognize that the bridge to resuscitating Caribbean tourism air transport may well be having regional air cargo moving to help offset the investment to move our people. We may need to look at different planes, and we may need to look at more regular traffic. And that is why the example shown to us in Belize when we went to the last heads of government with the use of the grand caravans, with the regularity of movement, may well be the solution for us, rather than these large aircrafts that move once or twice a day. Our people need regular, affordable access to air transport, and not just simply on a periodic basis. In addition, my friends, we also have to ensure that the population and the reality of our population is taken into account. Our population in this region is aging. We have the profile of a developed country, all of us. And we are also underpopulated, and there's perhaps no country more underpopulated than you here in Guyana, in the Caribbean region. Belize has the size of Israel, but has a population of just about 400,000 as compared to Israel's 8 million. Suriname is bigger than the Netherlands, but the Netherlands boasts 17 million and Suriname has 580,000 people. We have, as a region, to establish a regional population commission to determine whether our anemic economic growth has not been as a result of a lack of population as much as other barriers that we continue to address on a continual basis. But that aging population is best found and represented where? Among the agricultural sector. That is where, regrettably, we have a problem. That a lot of the people working in agriculture in the Caribbean are elderly and older people. And we also know, as you heard from the Secretary General this morning, have also a high percentage of women who work in this sector. I want to share just something, and please allow me to do so, because I need to make a call for decent work for women and labor in agriculture in particular. We are not going to attract new people into agriculture if the conditions of work are not decent. And that is why I want to commend my own Minister of Agriculture, who is here in Darware, for working with the Barbados Workers Union, for ensuring that after centuries of indignity and exploitation, we now have in our larger plantations and farms mobile facilities for sanitary and kitchen facilities for our women who are working in the fields, so that they do not have to suffer the indignity that has been theirs for centuries. But we can't build a future agricultural sector with an aging population. And that is why I'm so heartened to welcome this morning in particular the students that you have brought here, President Ali, because it is up to you, with the infusion of technology and the infusion of capital, to turn the experience of agriculture from that historic, awful scar that has been characterized with the modern settlement of the Caribbean to that wonderful opportunity to meet the world where the world needs us to meet us, not just to feed our own people, but to become the breadbasket of the Americas with what we produce and export to the Americas. And I trust and pray that in our ongoing discussions in the Americas, as we will soon have, that we put on the table not just climate and energy security, but food security. My friends, I know that my brother Prime Minister Skerritt will speak to the farmers and labor issues, because he is the lead Prime Minister and has worked wonders in this area of movement of people over the course of his tenure as Prime Minister of Dominica.